the action, but kind of put your
I
back at
I went
risk
ahead
as
and
well. So when you're coming through here, you really have to watch.
started it.
You really have to watch your back and make sure there isn't a team above you. Where else should we go ahead? I guess we could go to the core. That's another major POI. So if
We can go
everybody,
through some of these houses if
oh
you
yeah,
want.
for sure, for sure, for sure. We can go to these houses here. But yeah, Ed, why don't you talk about these buildings?
Sure. So these are, I guess, government assigned housing for the workers. They're quite swanky. I guess they got to make it worthwhile for them to come all the way to the moon
So
to
we're watching the
give up their
dev
lives
stream right
on
now.
Boreas. But Boreas, we established from Sears' lower trailer, has a very dominant African culture. So we kind of brought in a few influences to make it, feel like there's some of that here as well. But yeah, it's got all the amenities needed to survive on the moon.
Yeah, so from a gameplay standpoint, these buildings, I think there's two different ones. There's like a smaller one and a bigger one. But these buildings are pretty common, and these are like destination points we use a lot for the zip rails. So you'll see over here, I'll show you something that's kind of cool about these. Yeah, so this is the other variation. It's a little larger. These are really, really fun to defend because they have these like posts here, these kind of post up points on the edges here where you can kind of just watch down the line, watch down the zip rail line to make sure another team isn't trying to run up on you. One of the fun things about this is actually just if you come in it on a zip rail, you can get a good like momentum slide coming in through those doors. And so when you're coming into a good point, we find ourselves doing that all the time. And you kind of like when the door is closed, you just slide in and like crash through the door. It's a really good feeling. But I think we'll head to the core next. That's another major POI. These bridges also very, very popular positions for fighting. They create like a good hold for your team.
So the core is basically the energy source for the moon. They built this to power all their various scientific endeavors. We see little yellow power stations throughout. It's kind of where they distribute some of that energy that they stored. So you'll find them throughout the map, but this is where all the power is generated.
These are funky alien plants as well.
Was there anything that kind of inspired you guys with the style of art here or the visual style that you wanted to go with for this map?
Well, I've mentioned this in a few interviews. So one of the strongest themes was heaven and hell, right? We've done other themes like fire and ice and tropical kind of settings, but for this one, we were going to be on a barren moon, and we wanted to contrast that with the lush terraformed areas. So heaven and hell was kind of the motifs I was pushing on the team, and especially the grassy lush side was inspired by English gardens and Monet paintings, like that soft pastel sky. And you'll see Bionomics later has these giant lily pads and really lush flowers. So that really wanted to contrast against what we knew was going to be more of a drabber, kind of gray, alien looking place. We knew that we couldn't have too much of that because you want people to relate to the areas that they're going to be playing in for a long period of time, right? If you're going to spend hours in this, you don't want them to get tired or, fatigued by too much of a gray ambiance. So we do have some of that moon vibe, but then we contrasted that with more of an earthly terraformed half of the moon.
In the middle here, the honeypot, as we call it. So like the best loot's going to be here in the top middle. It's one of the sort of harder places to get to. If you look up, you can see there's actually a hole. So you can skydive into the top here. If you get a good plane path, you can skydive right through that hole. It's also kind of, we internally, we call it like a blender. So if you do land on the edge, those arms will kind of kick you down as well. So you can use that for like a speed drop if you want. And then, yeah, it's kind of like, it's a tricky spot to defend from the middle because you kind of always have to watch every direction, and these things are rotating. You don't really know where people can come from. So we find like people defend a lot of these arms and kind of hold up in here. These are pretty tricky spots to get people out of. The other thing that's really unique about this point of interest is the fan below here. So you'll see this like blue energy. You can actually jump into it. It'll push you up, and you can use that To escape, to enter, you can use it to just kind of like rotate around the POI if you want, but it does put you at a disadvantage, and you are a bit of a sitting duck. So similar mechanic to what you guys might have seen on World's Edge with the updraft, but this one doesn't damage you, and so you'll see that this mechanic across the map in a few spots. This blue and this blue glow. Anytime you see a spot like that, that'll actually lift you in the air. So we put those in spots where we like naturally it would kind of be a death pit, like you just jump in there and die, but we decided we didn't really want that, so we put this sort of like safety net in. So it's sort of a way that you're just not going to immediately die.
This map seems quite large.
So it's roughly the size of World's Edge. It's a little bit bigger than World's Edge, but you will find that once you have like a full game of 60 and people are just ripping around on the zip rails, that it actually feels kind of tight and a little quick. So the zip rails were like one of our ideas for getting rotations, like quicker rotations. And if you're kind of out of the action and you're in sort of like a downbeat and you're looking for action, this is one of the levers you can use to kind of close distances and stuff like that. So this is a launch pad. It'll take you up to a zip rail so you can grab it. There's a couple of those. You can see on your mini map, it looks sort of like a buckle or like a rectangle with a dot. Those are all the pads that take you on the rails. And the rails are identified by the red line.
The red lines. I was going to say, there's no balloons in this map, kind of like Storm Point?
There's one balloon.
Yeah, there's one balloon right now. And that's at Eternal Gardens, which we'll go to next.
Cool.
We'll head this way to Stasis.
Well, everyone's at Alpha Base. Should we just look at Alpha Base?
Oh, yeah, I guess we should. Yeah, so you can take that zip rail into Alpha Base there below.
So this is basically the first location where they landed on the moon. It's a giant crater. This is where they set up their first camp. It's the largest lunar camp. And it's just this network of these lunar habitat.
Yeah, so this is...
So earlier they were actually talking about a lot of the actual stuff to do with the actual lore, and
what we call like a town POI.
I was trying to
so
set the stream while that was all going
on. It doesn't support too many squads, and it's just a good place to rumble, to be honest. You have these good like loot circuits that you can do through these buildings and just kind of rip through them in a loop and pick up all the loot. You can get on top of these as well, obviously, and these are really good positions to just kind of sit up and get a lay of the land when you're on top of these buildings.
So you can climb all these buildings like all the way.
Yeah, a big thing for us is verticality and making sure that if it looks like somewhere you can go, that you can go there. Yeah, so this is one of the longer lines in the game for the zip rails. And it connects all the way from Alpha Base to Stasis.
How fast do these things go compared to zip lines?
Will you tell me how? Do they feel faster?
Much faster, they seem.
It's hard to get my head around.
It feels like they accelerate.
They do.
Yeah, so they take your basically like inertia and momentum into account. So like if it's going up or down, if you're climbing up, it'll slow down, and if you're going downhill, it'll speed up. But it eventually maxes out.
So what they're technically saying is that the entire thing is inertia based on that part. So
you'll see like a radius of
you literally will have like that actual feeling that you're gaining more speed or losing more speed when you're going up and down those zip lines. So I'm curious like how that's going to be going up zip lines.
Things they set up here to contain all the rock debris that you can see in the skybox.
I say zip lines and they're not zip lines.
Crashing back onto the moon. So that's that grid you see up there. If anything were to happen to that, big damage happening.
This is one of my favorite POIs on the map. I really like it. It's got a good, sort of like a good way to contest the area. So if we head towards the dish here, you can see that you can actually get on top of this thing. And so it gives you like a nice 360 spot, but you don't have a lot of cover up there. There's a little bit, but we find a lot of teams they'll kind of sit up there and they'll get into some pokey fights with other teams trying to enter the area. So from up here, you have a pretty good view at some of the chokes coming into the area, like the one over there. To the east, you can see that special choke there. That leads to Eternal Gardens, which we can go to next. But anytime you sort of see that kind of fencing or style, you know that it's leading to Eternal Gardens. But yeah, you can kind of just loop around on this thing and look for people. You can also go underneath it. So there's a bowl There's a little hidden bowl underneath this thing.
Sorry for you guys
that
having
also
to
has
see
a
my
central zip that'll take you back in. So we've had some like really fun endings at this point of interest. It's one of my favorites. You just have teams like trying to survive in here, looking out the windows, trying to like communicate and say which door they're coming in and stuff like that. So it's we can move on. We can head on to Eternal Acres here.
And it's supposed to be like a memorial garden for, the people of Boreas, the people that are here on the moon, to kind of remember that day that the moon got hit. So yeah, there's beautiful topiaries, strange creatures, beautiful gardens here. Central Tower actually has the one zip balloon on the map. And inside is quite a lovely kind of almost like a tranquil meditation spot for people that are, when they get off work, they can come here and chill out.
Yeah, so we can go in the bottom. So I call it a fairy pool down here. I don't know if Ed has a better word for it, but I call it the fairy pool. But yeah, it's just a really nice.
So there's an actual church.
Thing with God rays coming in and everything. It just looks gorgeous. But there's some really good loot down here. There's also a vertical zip line, 2 vertical zip lines that take you back up to the top. So when you're landing, this is a good place to land. Just in this central area here.
Also, the person who is actually a larger
YouTuber,
his name is the Gaming Merchant, who is also in the stream as well.
Over top of the whole thing, so you can kind of pick like where you want to move to, but you can't get too far.
Oh, this POI is just like so gorgeous. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of the first ones we actually tackled. It kind of represented that heavenly side.
Yeah.
Which who designed the little sculptures though, like the little these little animal sculptures that in the.
So Aaron, one of our concept artists, did a great job with those. I think we did 4 or 5 of them. Maybe one of them didn't make the cut, but they're really cute. We made it so that you can get underneath them and through them, because some of those spots felt pretty tight, but you should be able to get through.
And then you can.
I can't tell if you guys are getting
this is another town POI,
right
sort of
now.
like two towns facing each other with bridges in the middle, and then there is a zip rail connection that loops around. So if you're trying to get a quick flank on the other team or something, you can use the zip rails to come around and attack from the sides instead of face on. And then also, yes, there's the blue
you guys are getting
energy down here, the updraft energy that'll push you up if you jump into it.
And the vibe we were going for with this POI was that this town was once.
I forgot to turn off the thing.
Once, it probably had a main street down the middle. And then just to show the kind of fragility of the moon, it got split in half. These bridges have been set up to kind of almost hold the pieces together, but then that explains why we see the blue glow and the updraft happening there. So it's one of my favorite POIs. I think it's going to create some cool kind of side to side,
It'd be nice, like, if you fell off in there, it'd do the same thing, like, when you're around in World's Edge, the fragment, if you're going through fragment, and you fall into lava, you actually rise up.
If they use abilities, or if they use...
So, like, I'm curious if that's if it's going for that exact similar, like...
interesting ways you can kind of attack.
Process.
Was that like your intent when you're designing a lot of these POIs, that to potentially have them like have double usage? Like it's in the BR, but it's also potentially useful in the future.
Yeah, we think about that. It's in the back of our mind consistently. But one of the things that we just make sure is, like, if we look at this as like, yes, maybe this could work for gun run or something like that, but we make sure that it works for the BR first and foremost. The way this town is laid out,
the biggest part of the game.
Classic kind of level design, technique, which is just like, you put a big pit and 2 bridges, and you create these. You just really create these really strong front lines as a result. You can see here, actually, there's a waterfall down here that's being affected by the updraft gravity and the energy down there. So it's kind of like not behaving exactly like a waterfall should. That's just like a little. What do we call that thing, Ed? Did it have a name?
Waterfall?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think it was just supposed to like evaporate, right? Like it's just.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's supposed to flow upwards.
So it's kind of, the water's kind of getting pushed up by the energy there. So that's just a cool little thing.
And the surrounding biome, we were kind of going for white meadows. So a lot of white kind of lavender flowers. We called it the cloud forest. You'll see these big white mushrooms in the cliffs themselves. Just trying to separate the various POIs. so they don't all have, I think we have more than 4 or 5 biomes on this map. Slight variation, but it's just, flowers and color were ways to get that variety for us. And we're in bionomics now, which is probably the one that's closest inspired to like a Monet painting. It's what I was giving as reference for the ponds and the lily pads, beautiful pink sky.
Yeah, so you'll see we have some of these circular buildings here now. There's a few of these across the map, but they're the most prominent here in bionomics and in another point of interest called cultivation. And they're just really fun. They have a good circuit just around the outside of them, and then there's a good core to them where you can sit and defend. You can also get on the rooftops and use those to defend. They're actually really strong
I'm honestly curious about what the gaming merchant is saying right now. So we might go and like watch what he has to say in a second.
Obviously, is like the water,
because I want to get some other input. I can continuously say like my input about all this stuff.
It's a little trenchy, I'd say. That's kind of like part of this point of interest. It's trenchy.
And then after this, once the dev tree's over, I'm gonna go over the patch notes for season 15 of Apex Legends.
That are these arches, so you can kind of use them as.
And if you're new to my Twitch, I do a lot. I used to do a lot of Apex, and I still do. I just don't stream it as much as I used to lately. And I needed. This is me starting to get back onto that stream of doing things.
Terraformer, so you can see on the map there. There's a choke that'll lead you directly back to Terraformer.
Just from a lens, so like obviously you're thinking about game usage and obviously making these maps interesting from like a playstyle standpoint, and you're thinking about Final Circles. How much of the design is influenced by thought of how it's going to be used in competitive, or how it might be used in a high level ranked, and can we keep this because that'll be too strong? Is that kind of stuff you have to deal with, and if so, like how have you dealt with it on this map?
Yeah, that's all part of balancing for sure. Sometimes we have a theory on what's going to be really strong and what we think is going to be really strong, and we test it against that in situations where we actually play test it. We find it's pretty hard to tell exactly how it's going to shake out, but once it gets in the live environment within like the first day, community has tested it probably 1,000 times the amount that we will, right, just because of the sheer volume. We always look for points that are like too strong or that are really powerful. Like I can give you guys an example over here with something that we had to sort of balance out. So we made these rounder buildings, and they have this kind of lip on them here. So this is like one of the strongest defensible positions that we find that we've created in this area. So you can sort of sit on the lip, you can go over the lip, and and so one of the things that was making this sort of more powerful was actually the grass on top. So the grass on top was really high and really visible, and so that was one of the things where we were just like, oh yeah, there's too much grass up here. We need to pull this back a bit so that hide behind this thing and also hide in the grass. But we find like if you have a team in here that's defending it, it's definitely a strong position, but there's many of these, so you can have a bunch of teams kind of hold up in each one, poking at each other and stuff like that. But eventually you're going to have to come out of your position.
That was an awesome example.
So we have 2 Atmos stations on this map. This is Atmos Station A, and the other one we call backup in case this one were to go down. Well, the terraformer is what kind of seeded the area. This is what kind of created the breathable environment. It's quite a large POI, lots of areas to loot on the periphery.
Yeah, so it's a good vertical POI. This is probably one of our tallest POIs, I'd say, are the Atmos stations. Really easy to land at. When you're landing, most people land up here. They go inside afterwards. Really good defensible position up here. You have really good height advantage.
Pause this for a second. And if you didn't notice, I just noticed like when he went to do the ultimate, that there's actually a new little icon that shows up around the ultimate. So I'm curious what that all is about because it wasn't mentioned in the plan.
You have the exterior vertical zips in the front as well, so you can kind of tell if someone's trying to go up. Yeah, and you can just dump yourselves in here pretty well. Just sort of do a nice loop, staying at the bottom, going back to the top. And vice versa. So it is pretty hard to to get a team out of there, but
I'm
there's
going
lots
to
of
give
options
you
to
guys
get
a
out of
back
there. You can
screen,
go
and
from the
this time
back.
I won't forget.
There's rails
And we're gonna
that
go
take you
over
pretty
and
close
we're
from
gonna
the
check
back.
out,
There's a ramp at the back. There's lots of zip lines taking you up, and then of course all the legends and their abilities as
I
well
need to
can
click
kind of get
on
people
this
out of there.
and
We've provided a lot of cover around the
hide,
exterior too
so
that
you guys
that
won't be able to
provides
see. It's gonna be
some
a
height
black
cover,
screen
you know,
for a
so you
little
can get in
bit.
these
And I'm
these
going
shipping
to
containers and
hop
kind
into
of
my
protect your head
YouTube
from snipers above and stuff like that.
and
Good periphery. These
find
bridges right
station
here,
options.
these two bridges are unique to the Atmos stations. So these are really fun to fight in. There's some good windows,
'Cause right
ways
now
in and
he is
out. You
live
can
on
also
the
get on top of the bridge, and then there's these panels here too that can be used to climb up onto the bridge.
This is cultivation.
Yeah, so this
I
is
think
the
that
sister POI to Bionomics.
There's probably the biggest POIs on this side of the map now. You start to see like these large, super spread out areas that, like, it's the perfect POI if you want to have like a passive landing in ranked. Like, you want to land somewhere with so much space that you're not gonna ever worry about like having a fight if you don't want to have it. Like, those POIs are possible, and they're kind of out of the way to the point where people who land there, like, you know, they're not really looking for a fight. You know, there's enough space. This is another POI like I talked about earlier. We saw these sort of circle buildings, right? This is like the sister POI. So we have two circle building POIs like this, and two massive tower Atmos station POIs, which we just saw a minute ago. And then after this one, then we see the really big sort of massive buildings
like
on
it's
the
like
rocky side of the map.
because of how large it is. Like, you're gonna have like
growing on the walls.
you can have
cultivation
4 or
is like
5
it's
teams
like our
fighting in
moon
this
farm
area,
POI.
and
So you can
the
see
fights
inside
here
there's
are like
these,
it's gonna be
UV
like
lights and stuff under
last
the
for a
ground.
while.
It's
Is
keeping
what
all
I
the
feel
plants
like.
growing.
Because
Lots of plants, lots of
they're not
There's
that
another
easy to
POI.
defend. They're not
I
that
hope
hard to
that
defend
they have good
either,
footage of
and
it. If not, I got some footage of it in my video, which I'll post after the stream. But in this POI, I think it's called Dry Gulch. And there's this building where you have a zip line going across the top floor, and then another zip line coming up, and I can just see there being some really, really cool fights in here. Like, I'm excited
just,
to see
we're both
how
seeing
really
the
good
same
movement
thing. Like,
players
I feel like this
go.
would be like
You know how
an
like
epic
every
place to
building
fight,
sort
a
of
fun
has a
place to
movement
fight,
building. Sorry, every map
and a
has like a
great
good
place to
movement
play the
building.
game. Honestly,
I'm excited to see
I
it,
have
and I
actually
hope
like
that we
good
do see it in
outlook
the
on this.
stream.
Honestly,
The
about
building,
this
because
stuff,
it's
because
so cool.
I would think that this place is
it's
gonna have
really,
like
really
a
cool.
good,
The
a
moat.
good feel.
So the foundry is
how it
where
is
they
gonna
are
be in game.
processing.
So yeah, if you want
Like,
to
that's
watch
how
like
I
them
feel about
speaking
it
more
in
detail
the
about the
game. Like,
lore
already
and the
just
game design of the
seeing
map,
this,
then
I'm already getting those feels
twitch.tv/play
like it's
Apex.
gonna
But
be
for now,
really
I'm kind of
nice
just
to actually
sharing my
fight
thoughts,
in
and I'll
these
let them speak
areas.
when I haven't got much to say. But this this POI up here, the Foundry, has this first of a few POIs where, like, you can see the roof, you can see
go
things
back
here.
and
Everything here
switch
is climbable. Like, whatever, however you decide to get up there, you
back to the dev stream.
What they do is they kind of grab a rock, drag it into the upper area of the foundry, and then they crush it and create and get to the minerals on the inside. This is where I think Catalyst governed the ferrofluid and figured out how to harness it for herself.
You can also defend the foundry from the upper platform. You can't go all the way to the top, but you can defend from this edge here. So again, another like highly exposed location, but highly defendable. You get a lot of good sight lines for people coming into the foundry. But once you get shot, there's really nowhere to go. You just kind of have to go down and escape.
And although the surrounding area is a little more barren, the POI itself is quite colorful with the greens and the blues. So we tried to make sure that the POIs had a lot of color to them. If the biome itself was a bit more barren. Smaller yellow buildings, you'll see that they say worker station. These are scattered throughout the map as well. It's just like a common area for people to like get supplies, or it's a break room or something like that. You'll see those throughout. So the next three are actually all kind of tied together. At some point, the work on the moon was maybe slowing down. People were getting a little disappointed with the progress. So the government had to figure out other ways to infuse money and effort. So they allowed private industry to set up shop on the moon. And we have this group called Kabindi Group, and they set up a shipbreaking operation. And so Breaker Wharf is where ships are brought to be taken apart, Then we have Dry Gulch, which is where a lot of the pieces end up. And then the production yard is kind of where they take some of those pieces and recycle them and repurpose them and send them back out. So this is quite a large POI. It harkens a bit back to like Sorting Factory, has a bit of that vibe, but it's got its own flavor as well.
It's got this sort of like small, not a full horseshoe, but like half a horseshoe. We'll say semicircle. I don't know what I'm getting at here, but it's got this nice loop through the center of it, like through the interior, and so there's a lot of like CQC fights in here and stuff that can happen, and you can kind of just like go through the space through the interior. You can also get on the roof of this thing. It's a pretty powerful position, pretty dominant position. But again, yeah, you're a bit of a sitting duck up here, and other teams can push you and come from a bunch of different ways. There's a few ways up. There's like ramps at the back. There's a zip line. There's a couple of climbs that you'll find to get on top of it. So there's a bunch of access points to kind of get a team out of there. One of the things that's interesting with this point of interest is way at the back. There's like a landing zone way at the back, and the landing zone way back here has some pretty solid loot. What's really interesting about this one is like when you're contesting this one, a lot of the times what I do is if I see a squad going to the back here, I actually go to those buildings right next to it. So yeah, so if a team lands there, right, you can kind of sit up here and and like kind of hold them back there from a more dominant position. So sometimes that's what I'll do is if I see someone landing back there, I won't go for the direct contest and I'll actually land at these buildings. I think that's it. You can see like in the front too, there's a lot of like, there's a land bridge up front there. It gives you some good over under. The zip rails all kind of head that way as well.
And again, even though it's more of our barren look, we added some strong pops of this rusty red that kind of fills in pools and has affected some of the vegetation. So it's just bringing in some more color as well in here.
We'll head on to Dry Gulch.
You,
we'll just keep going north towards Dry Gulch. Dry Gulch is another point of interest in this same kind of industrial family. I'd say in terms of just the team and the dev team, this is probably one of the more popular POIs. I'd say it's probably the most popular POI, especially in terms of like the members of the team that are really skilled at the game. This point of interest is really interesting, especially this spot right here. It's another kind of cyclical donut, carousel type shaped point of interest that you can loop around. There's a zip line that cuts through that's super fun. That's like one of my absolute favorite zip lines. Yeah, and so you'll find a lot of people landing here. Some of the good loot is in the center. Dry Gulch is kind of like, that's like the main building, and then there's sort of like a sub building over here. So this one kind of, you can contest it, but it sort of divides teams up into two most of the time, where one team will get the good building over there and the other one will get this one, which is still really good, but not as strong as of a position. You can also get on top of these as well. There's a few of these buildings in the game. I think we just call them our warehouse buildings. I can't really remember.
Yeah. I think what people like about this one is how asymmetrical it is compared to some of our other POIs on the map. That's a draw to people that are really skilled. They seem to like this one for that reason. So this POI is the one furthest from obviously the terraformer. It's the very edge of the map. So this is probably the most alien, barren looking section of the map. You'll see a lot of this kind of red mushroom fungus, creepy tendril thing all over the place. We've also got pools of blue oily liquid around with some kind of some of the grass has kind of turned purpley blue as well, as if it's been leaking into the vegetation. And then the POI itself is this very strong orange to help pop it from the terrain.
This is a shipbreaking yard, right?
Yeah, this is where they bring ships to break down and send it through the chain.
Are there loot ticks on the map? I feel like I hear one.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I wasn't going crazy.
Yeah, we brought back the loot ticks from King's Canyon as our loot mechanism for this map.
They're all over the place when you're running around. You'll hear them squeaking and calling to you. Yeah, this map or this POI is very much sort of like a. I don't know if many of you played the original Halo, but this one.
I was gonna say
when our designer built it, I was like, this is very much like that Halo map with the two ships. From the original Halo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
boarding action. Yeah, it's trying to get the name. Boarding action. Yeah, so it's kind of like that, but it doesn't play like that. It just reminds me of that in spirit, I guess. But yeah, there's a bridge in the middle you can use to cross. There's a zip rail. So when you have two teams on either side, you can use like the zip rail in the center to cross and make a quick push. So when you're setting up, when you're trying to get a good defensive setup, it's always good to sort of keep an eye on that bridge, keep an eye on that zip rail, because when you take the zip rail across, it is really sheltered. So you sort of have to stand like right in front of it to get the most hits. If you're trying to do it from the side, they're gonna get onto your platform. Yeah, and then there's just lots of ways up, lots of little landing pads and stuff like that that you can land at. I usually land at the back, way at the back of this POI. I'd say it's probably one of the safer POIs to land at because it is quite edge. It's one of the sort of, I'd say it's probably the furthest away as well.
Also, guys,
and so it just brings that good balance that if you are looking for a safe point of interest to land at, this is one of them. And there's a couple of sneaky climbs that you might find running around it. It looks like a few people already found them, but you can get on top of this as well. And so again, if there's like no cover up here other than just the edges and trying to hide yourself, you can get sniped from a bunch of different angles around, so it's not the strongest position. And yeah, again, there's no cover up here, so once you get shot, you pretty much have to jump off. I think that wraps up the tour. I think the only one we didn't go to was the backup Atmo, but you'll see if you look at both of those points of interest, they're very similar. So they are pretty similar to each other, similar building, similar kind of layout as well.
Now we're moving on to Daz's questions. First question is, how did the idea for zip rails come about?
This was an idea we were kicking around for a long time. Originally, it was an idea that was thought about for Olympus, I think, but we cut that pretty quickly because we didn't really like where it was heading. So we dug it up again because it was an idea that we were excited about, and we really thought about like, okay, well, what if we add these, like, what is the point? Like we already have zip lines, we already have balloons and all these other traversal things. So what are we actually trying to accomplish here? And the thing we kind of landed on was we wanted more connectivity between the edge POIs, because we find a lot of the times rotating around the edge of the map is a lot slower, it takes a lot longer, and the ring usually pulls you away from the edge. So that was something that we thought was really, really interesting and a really good add that we could include with the map. So you'll see a lot of the zip rails are actually connected to the outer POIs and allow you to do much longer loops. But yeah, that's kind of where that seed was planted.
Awesome. All right, next question is, what are the major design goals for Broken Moon?
Yeah, so continuing with that same thread of zip rails, one of the goals that we were also thinking of was like, okay, well, how can we shake up kind of the traditional flow of a match? We find that once you land an edge POI, your squad's trajectory is usually pretty similar, depending, of course, on which way the ring goes, but you're usually leaving those POIs in a similar way or from a similar trajectory. So we really wanted to think about like, well, what was a way that we could actually change your trajectory or change the way you're moving towards the ring quickly? And so that's where zip rails kind of came in as well. And we wanted to give people opportunities to not consistently have to rely on Valk in terms of like quick rotations and getting your squad out of harm's way. So zip rails was like another opportunity for that. So you might not always have to have Valk in your composition as a result.
Cool. And then
so they're trying
next up is, how does this map reflect the team's philosophy on hot drops and third party?
So our philosophy on hot drops is that they are healthy, but they get unhealthy when there's too many people dogpiling, because what that ends up doing is once everybody gets eliminated early on, fights last really long, and you get this weird pacing issue kind of in the middle of the game where you're looking for squads and it's like, well, because they all died of fragment or whatever. So it is part of the game, and it's something that we designed for sure. So something we tried with this map that was a little different was making a few additional larger POIs. There are other maps that do have larger POIs, but in this map I'd say we have more larger POIs than the other maps. And so one of the things we were trying was just giving people more space to land at a POI, less like contestable spots, more contestable spots right out of the gate. But it makes it sort of that the POI sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. With the larger POIs, you basically have time to get like your footing. So when you land, there are these hot spots where you can land to get the best loot.
Ooh, load. And I will just take that set time. I'm like, it's saying, hey, you're gonna get time to put a foothold,
but there's also areas where you can land to get your footing, be more proactive about, you know, do you want to engage in this fight or do you want to get away? And we found that with that, like not as many people dogpile all on the same POI because there is more space to share across the map. So we thought that was a pretty effective change. And then as far as third partying, we think it's a core element of the game. We're not trying to remove third partying. We think it's a very viable strategy. And what we are trying to do though is think about ways to kind of soften it up. You know, if like people are choosing to third party, is there a way that you can actually defend against that? So balloons, you know, a balloon gives you free range, 360-degree control over how you want to drop on someone. Where with like a zip line or a zip rail, we find that the points are a little bit more fixed, so you kind of have an idea of where people are coming from. So it's a similar philosophy behind the launchers or the cannons in Tropics that launch you on sort of a fixed trajectory.
Which is pretty
awesome.
Nice.
And finally, how would you say that rotation feels on this map?
I would say rotation feels good. There's a lot of opportunity for large macro rotations with the zip rails, and then a lot of the points of interest we've built with that cat and mouse gameplay in mind, where you know, if you get a shield break, there's still opportunity to get away or run away or hide or disengage for just enough time to heal. So that's really important to us in our
zip rails, go through these buildings. If a team is holding up in that, then you're gonna have to fight that team. You don't have a choice. And the only way out is if you have like a movement legend, like as like Pathfinder or Octane, or maybe Horizon or Valk. And I doubt it on Valk because Valk's ultimately being nerfed the way it is. It doesn't seem like it would come out well. It doesn't seem like it'll turn out for anyone as well as it should. I'm gonna probably turn on my camera there in a second. Face reveal, yeah. I'm gonna turn on the face cam in a second, just so you guys, I can just ramble on, or maybe we could probably real quick. Because I want to do the patch notes in a second. Let's go and check out here.
You can climb all over it and get inside, and there's like windows and ledges and stuff, and it gives you a real sort of good view of everything in the area, and it's just so big. And I also found that like there's a pretty cool sort of lore thing at the back, right? So the ferrofluid is extracted from this map. And that's where Cat gets all of her powers, catalysts, right? But then you just see this thing just blasting down this massive rock of ferrofluid, which I thought is just a really cool environmental thing. It looks really awesome. But yeah, look at how massive this PI is. It's huge. You have a massive roof that you can climb all around.
Yeah,
this is right on the edge of the map. Like landing here, you're going to be pretty far from everything. So, like I said, it's going to be a really good ranked map, and then you have this really nice.
In exchange for fun.
Bigger than World's Edge, but much smaller. Oh, much smaller than Stormpoint. So let's go. Let's see this map. Okay. Broken Moon. Broken Moon. Okay.
I'll kick it off because this is so the map is called Broken Moon. Is that what it is?
Yes.
So can you tell us just a little bit about like the lore behind the map and
can you hear it okay?
Sure. Back after
I turned it up.
Rand, who is our designer on Mayhem, started working on the next map. We pitched a few ideas. We started playing with the idea of a moon and snowballed from there because we knew in season 10 Fear was coming. And
here we go.
there was this whole story about his prophecy.
This,
and
I'll
it
let them
all
speak.
things started coming
We'll talk
together.
later.
We always imagined, like, what is it that, you know, we knew that the moon got hit and it affected Boreas, but what would the aftermath be? Well, how did they live with that? So the moon here represents all the work that's been going on since Seer was born. So it's about 26 years in the making. You know, a lunar expedition was sent to the moon to survey all the damage. They knew there was a lot of work to be done, but before they could bring people to the moon to fix things, they needed to make it habitable. So they brought science departments up here they needed damage. They knew there was a lot of work to be done, but before they could bring people to the moon to fix things, they needed to make it habitable. So they brought science departments up here to create a terraformer and atmosphere station. So you can see the pink sky, like an artificial atmosphere that was created. And this colony was formed called the Colony of Hope. And it's on the moon Cleo. Workers were able to start coming here, and we've got the promenade, which you can see across from the terraformer, this big giant wall. Those are apartments where most of the workers lived. And there's some homes scattered about the moon as well. And these people work here. They're all kind of pitching in to try to fix the damage and save their planet. Now, along the way, we've got things like, you know, private industry have come here as well to increase funding because it's very expensive to try to fix the moon. Kind of all segued into what's happening now, which is the Apex Games have someone struck a deal with Water Silva in exchange for funding to help save their planet. They allowed the game to come on the moon and become the next arena.
We can just talk about this POI really quick. So this is the terraformer. This is what Ed was talking about with how they were starting to terraform the moon. So this is the actual POI that is doing the terraforming.
There's a lot of I don't want to speak
stuff
over
coming out of the top. It's generating an
stuff
atmosphere, spinning around, trying to create a habitable atmosphere. You know, there's this like spiraling water underneath here that further helps kind of sell that idea. And when it comes to gameplay, we think this is actually going to be a pretty highly contested POI. It is fairly central in the map. It's not too big, but it does support, like, we'd say about 2 to 3 teams kind of comfortably. And from here, you can really kind of see and get a little bit of a lay of the land in terms of like land marking. So if you're like up top, you can actually get, this is like the sweet spot. You can actually get up here. But it's kind of hard to stay up here for too long.
That's really cool.
You get like right on the edge.
Oh, really?
We don't want you going too high up.
I had a
but
gun
you can get on the edge so you can
when
get
I
a good,
was up here,
a good view.
And I just zoomed in,
like,
and you can see so
that
much
big wall,
like this.
that big blue and white wall in the distance. That's the promenade. So we can
This
go
POI
over that
here,
later.
promenade, is
then you
probably
can start
going to be my
looking around, you can
favorite
see other landmarks,
in terms of gameplay.
over the rocks and over in the horizon. Like to the south, there's one of the Atmos stations. You have another Atmos station.
How about some new
northeast,
doors? Are they
and
all
there's,
exactly
a few
the
other
same in
POIs
the
you
whole
can kinda see
galaxy?
peeking over the horizon.
Yeah.
But you can see the terraformer has these
That's
like,
an odd one,
arms
isn't it?
that link up.
But
to,
speaking of new doors, like
different
all of
directions, sort of like
the
different cardinal
buildings in this
directions you can
place are
head
new.
through
Like
the
it
map.
doesn't feel
These
like
are really
they've
good
copied and
points to
pasted
defend when people are
anything
trying
from
to
the
come
other
up,
maps.
so we
It
find
feels
that the
really
terraformer
refreshing
is
in
this,
that
like
form.
kind of king of the hill sort of
So a
situation.
lot,
But
like
you
a lot of
you
cool
can't really defend it all from one
zipline
spot.
buildings.
You kind of have to spread out a little bit. You can slide down these arms. It's really fun. You can slide down the interior of the arms as well.
It's going to be a fun place to fight for
And then
sure.
there's just like these
There's like
interior
there's
spots
like
with the
3.
legs.
How would you call it?
to
Like
Ed's point,
it's
we're-
not symmetrical, but there's
we're trying to tell the
3
story through
identical
artwork
sides.
as well.
I believe there's 3
this,
sides
like,
with those arms
There's a
going
lot
down.
of posters and little visual storytelling pieces across the map that you see. Yeah, and then this is
It's
just
like
another
the-
way back up to the top.
So like, I can't say that, but also let's go to anything he's saying currently.
Easter eggs.
And then
I don't know if they responded to my question, but
We think it's a core element of the game. We're not trying to remove third partying. We think it's a very viable strategy. And what we are trying to do though is think about ways to kind of soften it up. You know, if
Can't say
people are
goodbye to
choosing
third party.
Is
See,
there
they're
a
not
way
gonna
that
do
you can
anything
actually
about third partying.
defend against that? So
won't happen.
balloons, you know,
It's just like
a balloon gives you free range, 360-degree control over how you want to drop on someone. Where with like a zip line or a zip rail, we find that the points are a little bit more fixed, so you kind of have an idea of where people are coming from. So it's a fix that launch you on.
say that rotation.
There's a
things
lot
with
of
Cat tomorrow at around this time, right? I think it should go live, so we'll be live here as well.
So tomorrow I might
let's
be live,
just
streaming the new season
bring this
of
down. Give me a
Apex.
sec, guys, and we'll go over to the live stream over there. So, give me a sec. Okay, so if you want to go over there, guys, you can. You could go check out the map from my POI. We look at the gameplay, look at Catalyst, look at patch notes and all that stuff. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and we're going to look at good old patch notes. And we're going to do Apex Legends Season 15 patch, Season 15. And we're going to go look up patch notes. And we're going to pull up the patch notes that dropped today. On top of it, this is like why I was mentioning while watching all that there was a Pathfinder thing, and I'm real quick going to check. Was there anything changed for the for Pathfinder, because it doesn't seem like anything was changed. So you see, there's the bug fixes, and then it ends right then and there. So I'm curious, like, what was the difference? Like, why is Pathfinder seem to be different? It doesn't mention anything in the patch notes about it. Doesn't mention any legend changes. It doesn't really mention much along. Just said new legend, catalyst, passive, barricade, reinforced doors, strengthening them and locking them to enemies. Spaces where doors have been destroyed can also be reinforced. And tactical piercing spikes, throwing out a patch of ferrofluid, which turns into spikes when enemies are near. Catalyst remains immune to enemy spikes, so she is immune to her spikes and other player spikes. So, which is an amazing thing. Ultimate Dark Veil, raise a permeable wall of ferrofluids. Enemies who walk through it will be slowed, partially blinded for a brief time. And I don't know if that goes for her as well, given that her tactical also makes her immune. So I'm not sure. That is a picture of the entire map. Let's open this image in a new tab, and you can see all the little bits. You can see the barometer, the freaking the freaking atmosphere stations that are here, and where's the other one? I think it's up in here. I believe, yeah, up in there. You have this, and then you have, I think, the pit is what they were calling it. Then you have the biggest POI. This is what you see in the a new home trailer that's in the game currently. If you go and you play Apex right now, you can get a little card called the Golden Ticket, and you can see the new teaser for the map. And this is what you'll see, is that it'll take you through here. It'll start you here, and then it'll take you through here, and it'll take you all the way around in here, and it'll end out around here. It looks kind of different, but it's pretty much what it is. It's just this POI in a different place, pretty much. But it looks the same in a way. But you got... This is what they're talking about, where there's this... I think this is what they called, I think it's something chasm or broken something. Can't remember. I wasn't paying too much attention. It's still a new map to me, so it's gonna take me a while for me to remember all the names. You can see how broken it is, and really what this is a settlement, a main settlement start, and they just made it the host, a home of the Apex games. So like, there's probably more settlements amongst this moon and amongst this place from when it got blown to bits because of the, lore. And if you go into the lore of Seer, who came out a few seasons back, this was a big thing. A moon came on his day of his birth, or got I think it was a a comet had hit the moon and bursted the moon and blew it up on the day of his birth, and they have always blamed him for it. And the entire culture, like they had said, is of the entire planet was mostly African American, or not African American, but African, like what was the word I'm looking for? Damn. It was mostly saturated with African American heritage, or not African American exactly, but African heritage, and it was a big thing. If it was African American, it'd be a completely different story, but it was mostly African. I am sorry if I made a mistake like several times just then, but my brain just like flunked out there. But that is all there. Well, let's go back to the patch notes and we'll talk about the patch notes. I was actually reading off the patch notes. So in map rotation, we have Broken Moon, Olympus, and World's Edge. Gifting is now in the game. Whether you're introducing a new friend to Apex Legends or welcoming back an old one, you don't want to catch them up on the story. Share the freshest Apex style with other players via the new gifting system, which allows you to purchase bundles and cosmetic items in the store tab for your in-game friends. You can read more about this and how gifting works in our blog and FAQ. They're also adding stickers, which is a brand new community, but is not in the actual loot pool or the Apex pack pool. It's not going to be an obtainable thing. You have to buy them, and they are in the purple rarity. They also updated the UI, as you can tell here. They did a lot of balancing updates. They didn't do that many. Well, let me put it this way: they didn't put that many in balancing updates this season. Ranked balancing requirement now is instead of entry level of 10, they upped it to 20. So you have to be at least level 20 to actually start playing in ranked. So crate rotation right now, in other words, the supply I think the care package is what it's called. I forget sometimes. They pulled the Mastiff out of the care package and put it back on floor loot, and they put in the RE45 with disruptor rounds. The rotation for gold weapons now are R301, Devotion LMG, 3030 repeater, Eva 8, Prowler, Burst, PDW. And they're bringing back the floor root, the Anvil receiver, and they're adding it to floor root and the crafting bundles, meaning it's going to be in rotation, and sometimes it'll be on floor and sometimes it won't. Along with the purple mag. Also the Anvil receiver is, if you did not know, is for the R301 and flatline, and it trades out in single fire, high fire rate for a higher damage. So it gives you a higher damage, but drops your fire rate. Which, personally, I like it because it gives you tap damage, and a big thing in this game lately is those long-range fights. So it's going to be very helpful to have that in that since it's a long-range meta right now, using that R301 and using the flatline. And it's going to be a great thing to be using in the arenas mode a lot, because then you're going to be able to tap people from across the map with high damage, with maybe low fire rate, but high damage reward. Double tap trigger and for the EVA 8 and G7 Scout is now a rarity tier increased to a legendary, and they improved the recoil for burst fire on the Scout, which I didn't think it really needed. It wasn't that hard and it wasn't that difficult. Now, they nerfed the turbocharger this season, and I'm kind of sad. So when equipped with the Devotion and Havoc, the damage reduced by 1 when equipped. So if you want to know what the damage does now with a turbocharger, just take the consistent damage that it gives based on the devotion and the havoc, and you'll see what it is now. It's now -1. They're trying, in other words, they're trying to nerf the devotion and the havoc, which we all know impossible. Don't sleep on the havoc. 100 point rounds for Mozambique P2020 RE45 is being removed from floor loot and crafting bundles. In other words, they're being removed from crafting and they're being removed from floor loot. In other words, we will no longer have 100 point rounds for another couple of seasons. Boosted loader as well is going to be removed from the crafting bundle along with the kinetic feeder, which I don't really care for because it was really useless anyway. In the crafting rotation, first will be the M600 Spitfire and the Peacekeeper. In other words, we won't be seeing the Spitfire or the PK for the first half of the season. And for the second half of the season, you will have Havoc and P2020 into the after. I think no. Havoc and P2020 are going to return to the floor. What am I saying? We're gonna have it'll be returning to the floor, and I don't know after the that is pretty much just saying for the first half of the season we're gonna have that. So we don't know what's gonna happen for the second half of the season. I just think it's just gonna trade out seasons to seasons, and we're gonna have two guns. We don't know. So it's just gonna tell us the first thing. So we won't have the Spitfire in the PK for the first half of the season. The Rampage LMG is going to be buffed in the care package because apparently it's not already powerful enough. Begins charge on first time pickup from the supply. In other words, the care package. They really are terrible at keeping these names up. The care package and remove the heat decay over time. So they're removing the nerf that they added during the time that it was on floor loot. So Rampage and Sentinel is also getting a buff where it can recharge Rampage and Sentinel before previous charge has expired. So the Sentinel is getting a buff, and I actually kind of like that. That actually should have been something that was, already there from beginning. Mastiff ammo capacity is now, since it's going back to floor loot, is now buffed from 4 to 5. They have now nerfed the choke now down up to a widened blast pattern, so it's going to go wider. They've nerfed the damage per bullet or pellet from 14 to 11. Projectile growth is reduced, and reload now can be canceled with ADS. Damage per bullet was 11 when it started, and they increased it to 14 when they put it to care package. They're putting it down down. So they've learned, from the past with certain guns, bringing it in and out of care package. They need to change it. Same thing what they did with the L-Star, because the L-Star was pretty overpowered, and it seems that we're getting a buff though with the L-Star, with a reduced recoil at the beginning of the pattern, and the stall animations adjust to better match timings. Volt SMG reduced projectile speed and increased projectile gravity. They have nerfed in other words, they have nerfed the distance that you can fire the Volt SMG. You can normally hit somebody from around 113 yards, or not yards, but meters in the game easily and without any projectile drop at all, given that that's the thing about energy weapons. The triple take rate of fire increased from 1.2 to 1.35, so you can now fire faster. The choke charge time reduced from 1.1 to 0.75, which is a gracious thing that they need, since it's now in the gun and you have the option to turn it off or on, whether you want it or not. And it gives you more of a chance to hit your target. They increased the R99 mag size for blue and purple instead of the common 24 that is now in the game. it'll be up to 25, and that's for the blue mag, and for the purple magazine size, it will be from 27 to 28 to the same size of the R301. They're really trying to make the R99 powerful again at this point. The Peacekeeper, even though it's not going to be in our enter the first season, we will have projectile growth reduced, so it actually will get smaller and be more easier to use, I guess. All Battle Royale maps, Ring 1 pre-sheet time increased from 60 to 90. So 90, in other words, it's saying it takes an extra 20 seconds. So it's 1 minute 20 seconds for Ring 1 to close in. So they increased Ring 1. QOL stuff right now is that they updated the UI and navigation system and presentation, and updated the various menus to use the updated tab navigation system. Ziplines can now be pinged from a distance. That doesn't explain what I was seeing in the on the actual stream. It seemed that they had a limiter or showing like how much, or rather this is going to be. I think that might be a new UI that they might add later, like I was saying earlier. Decrease the time required to pick up 2 teammates' banners from their deposit by canceling the initial banner pickup animation when you grab a second banner. Bug fixes fixed an issue where a zipline was missing in a building or a north pad. Kings Canyon fixed bugs where players could not ping race portal in her town takeover. Fixed a bug where decimal numbers showed up on stats screen when they shouldn't. And I don't think that was a Kings Canyon thing, because as of right now, there's a bug going on in the game currently that is causing the same thing. So they're saying with the Revelation skin, which I do have the Revelation skin. I'm currently playing I have Apex running right now in the background. But currently the Revelation skins apparently has a bug in it, and they're gonna fix it in this update. I've experienced no issues with it. I'm a Revenant main. I played with this skin a lot, and I experienced no issues that they're saying here was an issue. Apparently there was one, though, with Revenant. Fixed a bug with Revelation skins where the players would experience camera clipping into Revenant's shoulder after exiting Shadow form. If they were so concerned about this, why have they not fixed the Bloodhound issue where with you're using the Prowler and you're putting it away or picking it up, that it actually like shows you the shoulder of Bloodhound? I don't know why they haven't fixed that. Fix the bug with Sniper's Mark's damage multiplier would continue after the player is down. Thank you, because Advantage is already annoying as enough. Fix the bug where Vantage's passive ability was displaying a team of 3 when there was less than 3 players alive in the squad. They fixed a bug with Crypto's heirloom where it would not be visible during a survey beacon use. Fix a bunch of bugs with Crypto. Jeez, Crypto, you seem to be the one that needs the fixing. Fix between Bloodhound and the wait, what with Bloodhound? Fix the bug during tutorial where the first loot bin could become accessible if a player attempted to open it while standing between the bin and Bloodhound. Weird. How does that have to do with Crypto? I think that's supposed to be a Bloodhound bug fix. Fix the bug where some players with custom controls couldn't jump. I almost said wall jump. Couldn't jump. This should fix the problem where you can't ping on your thing, because I have custom controls and I can't ping. So, fixed for cases where loot bins could crush players to death if they got caught between the lid and a wall. Thank you. That was I died because of things like that. Fixed for cases where players would get stuck. These are just things I don't know why they particularly said some things for some legends, and then they were saying things with But Heather, all of a sudden, seems the opposite. Fix for cases where players were unable to aim down sights until reloading is complete when done at certain times. Fix the bug where user location on minimap wouldn't update properly. I didn't find that as much of an issue. I didn't really think it. Well, I never really saw anything. Fix the bug where the legend ability UI would flicker when going into a legend select before the match starts. Fixed firing damage to take damage appropriately hit on location. And that seems to be all for all of the things for the dev stream. So I hope you. I'm gonna give me 1 second, guys. So that seems to be everything for the dev stream right now. So you're seeing Apex running in the background, and you're seeing me just sitting here. I turned the camera a little bit just towards my mainly this. Behind me is my chinchilla. If you guys are already seeing the actual camera feed as of right now, I'm going to make this wider. Now you guys see me in full. I'm going to put my computer's camera right there. So you're seeing everything here. So we have all that, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the stream. This is the first time you guys have seen my actual face on camera and everything. So it seems that is generally what's been going on with Apex as of right now, and I can't say anything is going on. Did they fix pay to win? No, they didn't fix the pay to. Your controller might be broken. No, it is not. Why is? Yeah, okay, not me. It's just simply all that. But they didn't fix the pay to win. They did change the pay to win flatline screen recently. Yes, I know. Whatever. Um, weird today's Twitch. But that's generally today. We might play a stream after this of actual Apex. Anyway, this will be actually uploaded onto the YouTube unedited, so they're gonna all see this anyway. So they don't really care. But anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's stream overall. It's been a lot of me just talking about like the normal stuff that goes on in Apex, the new meta and everything else, and the new POIs that are going on in the game. And I hope you've enjoyed just hearing me talk about them for the last hour. Because I'm looking at the stream right now. I'm just like, geez, I've been rambling on for an hour and 7 minutes watching this. The dead stream like lasted like 46 minutes, and I was like 37 seconds short on starting the stream. Of all things, like to start, and I wish I didn't miss like all of that going on. So I hope you guys enjoy the stream and all that stuff. But see you guys next time and have fun.